What I was told is there was an investigation. They interviewed him twice. They took his phone, downloaded everything.
According to insiders, the FBI has been questioning these NBA players extensively regarding their connections to the mafia, gambling scandals, and millions of dollars in manipulated wagers. Cameras captured Damon Jones denying leaks during questioning, Terry Rozier of the Miami Heat professing innocence, and Shanta Bips in handcuffs outside his mansion. It's still a burning question. Who will be the next NBA star to lose it all? The NBA's most humiliating court day, from arrest to arraignment. Let's go right to the catastrophe that occurred on October 23, 2025, when 3 NBA players were paraded before federal courtrooms like they were trying out for a crime thriller, a scene that shocked the basketball community. Former player Damon Jones, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, and Portland Trail Blazers head coach Shanta Bips all had their mugshot moments and the specifics of their initial court appearances. Pure mayhem, encased in pricey attorneys and artificial poise. Around 2:30 p.m., Shanta Bips, the Hall of Famer, 2004 Finals MVP, and former Portland star, stepped before U.S. Magistrate Judge Jolie Russo in Portland, appearing as though he would prefer to be somewhere else. Reporters and Bips, all wearing brown Clutch Sports Group hoodies, crowded the courtroom. Indeed, the agency of LeBron James arrived with more Sunday tasks than a federal defendant. The prosecution wasted no time. By utilizing his popularity to entice high rollers into games where the deck was literally stacked against them through marked cards and x-ray tables, they exposed claims that Bips served as a face card in rigged poker games. We're talking about upscale locations like Las Vegas, Miami, and the Hamptons where victims lost millions of dollars, while Bips allegedly kept $50,000 in wire transfers for each game. Phillips simply nodded and said yes when asked if he understood the accusations of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering, each of which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, as Judge Russo read them. No sobs, no tantrums, just icy recognition. Chris Haywood, his lawyer, responded right away in a statement. Shanta Bips is an honest man, as anyone who knows him would attest. With the same determination that characterized his 28-year career, he will combat these accusations. The optics, but the traditional lawyer's words. Sydney, his daughter, and his wife Piper were seated in the front row, holding hands. Phillips avoided making eye contact with the media circus, while Piper wiped her eyes. He was granted a $100,000 bond by the judge, but with terms that would make any gambler sweat. Your passport must be turned in before tomorrow. No gambling, not even on the internet. And unless you have court dates in New York, don't even consider leaving Oregon. Not to mention weekly check-ins with pre-trial services for monitoring purposes. Around 4:30 p.m., Phillips exited the courthouse with lawyers at his sides and was led to a black SUV. He ignored the more than 20 reporters who were yelling questions and kept his head down. It was impossible for the man who once glared at Kobe Bryant during the championships to even look up at a camera crew. Terry Rozier, meantime, was having a rough day of his own down in Orlando. At his 1:00 p.m. arraignment before U.S. Magistrate Judge Robert P. Keenan, the Miami Heat guard, who had been arrested at a hotel that morning during the team's preseason schedule, appeared as though he had thrown on whatever was closest, sporting a black hoodie, colorful shorts, and sneakers that shouted, "I wasn't planning on being here today." Prosecutors presented a scenario that would make any sports professional blush, yet the hearing lasted less than 15 minutes. Rozier allegedly told his associate, Dairo Nero-Laster, via text, that he would leave a Charlotte Hornets game on March 23, 2023, early after 9 minutes, because of a fictitious shoulder injury. This allowed bettorers to profit from under-prop bets totaling more than $200,000. The plan is straightforward but bold. As his fellow conspirators applauded, Rozier played precisely 9 minutes and 34 seconds, scored 2 pitiful points, and then hobbled off with an injury claim. Laster allegedly counted cash on camera as if they were acting out a robbery movie after collecting the prizes and meeting Rozier at his house in Charlotte to divide the proceeds. In response to the judge's question about whether Rozier understood the allegations of wire fraud and money laundering conspiracy, he curtly said, "Yes, sir." With his arms crossed and his jaw set, he appeared more defiant than contrite. After Rozier was cleared by the NBA, his lawyer, Jim Trusty, came out swinging, accusing the arrest of being a photo op and scolding the prosecution for humiliating a professional athlete by having him perform a perp walk. Trusty maintained Terry is not a gambler, but he isn't scared of a battle and is eager to win this one. Rozier was released on a substantial $250,000 bond with his house as collateral, along with the customary passport surrender and no gambling stipulation, after the court was unmoved. About half an hour later, Rozier and his mother, who had supported him like a ship's rigging, climbed into an SUV and departed through a side door. He maintained a slightly bowed head during a storm, but his stance remained straight, giving the impression that he was resilient even when the cameras moved on. Then there is the 49-year-old assistant coach and former player Damon Jones, who is involved in both the sports betting scheme and the poker ring. Following his arrest in Cleveland that morning, where investigators confiscated electronic equipment from his home, Jones made an appearance before U.S. Magistrate Judge Elena J. In Las Vegas at approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Due to logistical reasons, the hearing was conducted virtually in a hybrid format and lasted roughly 25 minutes. Jones, wearing jeans and a basic gray t-shirt, looked like someone who had just been pulled out of retirement. He sat forward with his hands clasped and his eyes fixed on the judge. The accusations made against him are outrageous. He allegedly provided gamblers with insider information about the Los Angeles Lakers by texting them that Player 3, who is most likely LeBron James, would miss a game against the Milwaukee Bucks on February 9, 2023, because of a lower body injury. This allowed a co-defendant to wager $100,000. Demands for payback followed the wager's loss when the Lakers won nonetheless, but the damage had already been done. Additionally, Jones is accused of disclosing information regarding Anthony Davis, the fourth player, missing previous games. Furthermore, according to authorities, he lured victims with his connections to LeBron and other celebrities while acting as a face card in the rigged poker games. Jones didn't make any big remarks in court. He was released on a $150,000 bail with weekly reporting obligations and electronic monitoring after only acknowledging that he understood the allegations. According to people close to Jones, he would contend that his involvement was not due to deliberate deception, but rather to his well-documented gambling addiction, which cost him millions when his career ended. However, the FBI doesn't believe it. Let's go back to how these three initially found themselves in courtrooms.
FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years.
The October 23rd arrests weren't the result of an impromptu bust. They were the result of a multi-year investigation that included the NYPD's Organized Crime Control Bureau, Homeland Security Investigations, and the FBI. The investigations, known as Operation Royal Flush for the poker ring and Operation Nothing But Bet for the sports betting side, started in early 2023 after sports bookies such as DraftKings and FanDuel noticed questionable betting trends during NBA games. We're referring to prop bets, which are bets on specific player metrics like minutes or points that have unexpectedly turned into treasure troves for a few chosen bettors. The FBI linked these trends to insiders disclosing confidential information, such as unpublished injury reports or schemes for players to perform poorly. Undercover operations, informants, and wiretaps combined to create a case that ultimately resulted in 34 indictments in 11 states. After the arrests went well on the morning of October 23rd, federal investigators executed a search warrant early that morning and took Billups into custody at his residence in Lake Oigo, Oregon. Just a cooperative handover and a brief ride to Portland Federal Court. No drama, no opposition. But Rozier received the entire therapy. While he was getting ready for the Heat's preseason schedule, agents gently captured him in his room at a hotel in Orlando at around 7 a.m. Eastern Time. By the afternoon, he was changing out of his basketball shorts for courtroom wear and standing before a judge. Sort of. Agents raided Jones' home in New York and confiscated electronic gadgets that the prosecution hopes would completely unravel the case. In order to avoid any flight risk situations, all three of them promptly turned in their passports. They were then freed on bond that same day under stringent guidelines that effectively placed them under home arrest without the ankle monitor. The players' responses. Although Rozier remained silent in public, his lawyer's vehement defense portrayed him as the victim of prosecution overreach, pointing out that the NBA had earlier cleared him in a 2023-24 internal investigation.
What I was told is there was an investigation. They interviewed him twice. They took his phone, downloaded everything, and at the end of the day, they said there's nothing to see here and cleared him. And that was a very professional investigation. It wasn't something that was perfunctory. You had FBI agents, you had a vice president within the NBA that was a former prosecutor in SDNY. So it was the real deal. They looked at the same stuff and they said there's nothing here, but we got a trophy hunt.
Through his attorney, Billups relied on his legacy to remind everyone that he is a Hall of Famer and would never risk his reputation for anything, much less a card game. Although sources indicate that Jones is crafting a defense focused on his gambling issues rather than malevolent intent, he remains silent on the radio. Here's the worst part, though. With the Trailblazers appointing Tiago Splitter as their temporary head coach and the Heat frantically reorganizing their squad, the NBA promptly placed both Phillips and Rozier on indefinite paid administrative leave. Speaking in public for the first time on October 25th, Commissioner Adam Silver expressed his unhappiness and described the accusations as extremely upsetting. He also promised to fully cooperate with federal authorities. In other words, the league fears that this will turn into a crisis of legitimacy that reduces the Tim Donaghy referee controversy to the level of a parking ticket. What does this leave us with, then? 3 NBA players are currently facing the possibility of life in prison and lifetime bans from a league, each with a unique tale of alleged greed and poor choices. Their initial court appearances prepared the ground for what is expected to be one of the most dramatic cases in the history of sports. And this is just the beginning, as the FBI has promised more arrests are on the way. The inquiry becomes deeper. More crazy, more names, more mafia. But if you believe that the story would end with the arrests of Billups, Rozier, and Jones, be ready for the FBI just said, hold my beer. Federal authorities have said unequivocally that this probe is still ongoing as of October 27, 2025. And the 34 individuals who have already been charged are only the beginning. While refusing to rule out further arrests, U.S. Attorney Joseph Nosella Jr. acknowledged that more indictments may be made. And FBI Director Kash Patel explicitly stated that this is just the beginning, implying that further NBA players and coaches are being investigated. The investigation, which started in 2023 after DraftKings and FanDuel noticed abnormal betting trends, has already linked 4 New York Mafia families, the Bonanno, Gambino, Genevieve, and Lucchese, and has descended into other inquiries aimed at college basketball and other leagues. Translation: this issue isn't unique to the NBA. There is a structural decay affecting professional sports. Let's discuss potential other suspects. Since 2021 matches BIPS to a T, the indictments mention an unidentified co-conspirator 8 and the description of a 1997 to 2014 player coach. However, prosecutors imply that his involvement goes beyond poker, possibly informing bookmakers about the Portland Trailblazers' rest plans for a game against the Chicago Bulls on March 24, 2023. Bettorers who realized the lineup was struggling cleaned up on underbets after the Blazers' 28-point loss that evening. The Milwaukee Bucks guard Malik Beasley is also being investigated by the NBA for unrelated gambling-related offenses. Despite not yet being named in the federal indictments, he willingly turned over his phone to detectives, and according to sources, he is cooperating. Will he turn on people? We'll find out in time. Not to mention the unspoken issue of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. There is no proof that LeBron or AD were aware of Damon Jones' alleged leak of information on their injuries, which included referring to them as players 3 and 4 in the charges. However, Jones and LeBron have a tight relationship. In 2023, he was an unofficial Lakers advisor, and there are rumors that the FBI may look into that relationship further. Additionally, links to earlier scandals have been revealed by the probe. The 2025 charges specifically mention Toronto Raptors forward Johnny Porter as a co-conspirator. Porter was banned for life in April 2024 for manipulating prop bets. Porter, who entered a guilty plea to wire fraud in July 2024, was coerced into disclosing information by mob connections because of gambling debts totaling more than $100,000. For other people, including Long Pham and Amin Abu Bakr, were arrested in June 2024 as a result of his cooperation. They allegedly used coded specials language to coerce Porter into making an early departure. These same networks are now connected to Rozier's purportedly staged exit during the Hornets versus Pelicans game on March 23, 2023, demonstrating a trend of players being lured or forced into manipulation schemes. This web is much larger than first believed, according to the FBI's use of wiretaps and surveillance footage, which includes a recording of a co-conspirator speaking with Carmelo Anthony. With the next batch of indictments anticipated in early 2026, prosecutors have alluded to the possibility of charging additional active players and coaches from clubs like the Portland Trail Blazers and Orlando Magic. It's not limited to the NBA either. The NCAA is looking into 13 former men's basketball players from 6 different colleges for placing bets against their own teams, demonstrating how the problem has spread to college sports. Former players have refused to cooperate in a separate investigation into point shaving at Eastern Michigan that was spawned by the Porter case, leading to federal subpoenas. The NCAA is struggling to keep up as it lacks the FBI's investigative capabilities. However, the harm has already been done. The already $10 billion annual college sports betting industry is now being scrutinized by Congress. In relation to this, on October 24th, a bipartisan House Committee on Energy and Commerce addressed a letter requesting that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver provide them with a briefing by October 31st regarding the league's oversight and the necessity of new legislation. Senator Richard Blumenthal said that legalized sports betting without federal safeguards was bound to result in precisely this kind of corruption, while House Minority Leader Heikki Jeff described the affair as a startling development that jeopardizes fan faith. The NBA is currently facing criticism for its $76 billion in television deals and alliances with FanDuel and DraftKings, with some claiming the league put money before ethics. Since this isn't the NBA's first experience with gambling scandals, let's take a little look back. It's just the most technologically sophisticated and mafia-infused version to date. The 2007 Tim Donaghy controversy, in which referee Don Nagy used insider information to sway calls and point spreads, is considered the gold standard for NBA betting catastrophes. James Batista, a gambler with mob-affiliated bookies, received picks from Don Nagy between 2005 and 2007, earning between $30,000 and $80,000 every game. After the FBI's 2007 investigation turned up roughly $100,000 in bribes, Don Nagy entered a guilty plea to wire fraud and transferring betting information, receiving a $200,000 fine and 15 months in prison. Martino and Batista, his co-conspirators, received sentences ranging from 15 to 18 months. Although the league was exonerated of systemic corruption in the 2008 Pedowitz report, a 133-page audit, statistical irregularities in Donaghy's games were discovered. He was sacked by the NBA, which also changed the rules for referees, morning assignments, gambling therapy, and stats analysis before continuing. However, Don Nagy made a comeback in 2019 with her book Personal Foul, which refuted claims that the league had fixed series to prolong the playoffs. The current scandal is the tip of the iceberg, warning of deeper turmoil, Don Nagy told the Times of India in 2025. Donaghy's pales in comparison to the 2025 scandal. The same vulnerability is revealed by 34 defendants versus 1 referee, millions versus $100,000, and mafia enforcement versus lone bookies. insiders with positional access who manipulate results for financial gain. Then there is the story of Jonty Porter, which paved the way for 2025. Porter, a two-way forward for the Raptors, who is recuperating from ACL injuries, became involved in a scam motivated by gambling debts totaling over $100,000. He gave associates access to his health information between January and March 2024, allowing underprop wagers on his games. He played 4 minutes against the Clippers on January 26, 2024, before leaving due to illness, resulting in $40,000 in wagers. He played 3 minutes against the Clippers on March 20th, when sportsbooks blocked a wager of $80,000. Using an associate's account, Porter allegedly wagered on 13 other NBA games, including one against the Raptors. Federal involvement increased after DraftKings and FanDuel brought attention to the irregularities and reported them to the NBA's integrity team. After verifying infractions, the NBA suspended Porter for life on April 17, 2024, becoming him the first player to be expelled for gambling since 1954. On July 10, 2024, he entered rehab after entering a guilty plea to conspiracy to conduct wire fraud, which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years. In June 2024, co-conspirators like Pham were apprehended and given maximum terms of 5 years. The league increased oversight and placed restrictions on low-paid players. The NBA obviously didn't learn from Porter's situation, despite it being a wake-up call. Despite similar trends, Rozier was exonerated in 2023 to 2024 before being charged with a federal crime in 2025, demonstrating the league's investigative limitations. Not to be overlooked is the Terrence Williams healthcare fraud scheme, which took place between 2019 and 2021. Williams, a former guard for the Nets, orchestrated a plot to take advantage of the NBA Players Association's health coverage. Williams enlisted 17 former athletes, including Glenn Big Baby Davis, Tony Allen, and Sebastian Teller, between 2017 and 2021. They used forged signatures and administrative impersonation to bill $3.9 million for fictitious services, such as phony orthodontic or chiropractic work. He maintained it by utilizing identity theft and intimidation to obtain more than $300,000 in kickbacks. The FBI investigation started in 2019. Emails and messages discovered during Williams' 2021 arrest demonstrated organization. After entering a guilty plea in August 2022, he was given a 10-year prison term on August 3, 2023, along with $2.5 million in reparations and $654,000 in forfeiture. 13 of the 18 accused entered guilty pleas. Allen received 4 months in 2024, Davis received 40 months in 2023, and other defendants are pending punishment. Although no games or active players were impacted, it resembled an NFL scam and led to health plan audits. Williams' scam was post-career non-competitive exploitation, in contrast to 2025. The NBA has strengthened regulations following each referee assignment following Donaghy, prop bet limitations, Porter, health plan audits, and Williams, in contrast to Billups, Rozier, and Jones, whose actions directly threaten game integrity and the fallout from all these incidents. However, the high-tech, mafia-connected multiplayer scope of 2025 necessitates, hitherto, unheard-of adjustments. Commissioner Adam Silver acknowledged that federal resources were superior to those of the leagues, but he defended gambling partnerships. A tacit acknowledgement that the NBA is incapable of self-policing. The scope and criminal sophistication of the investigation, which includes 34 defendants, connections to 4 mafia families, and the possibility of additional arrests, make this the league's most existential gambling issue, surpassing even Donaghy's seclusion and Porter's Loan Act. And the number of bodies is only growing as trials are scheduled for 2026. The indictments exposed mob backpoker, wire fraud, and money laundering. Let's examine the specific charges that the federal government is levying against these individuals. Because the 2 unsealed federal indictments that were released on October 23, 2025, read like an unput-downable crime fiction. The charges, which span 22 and 31 pages, respectively, describe how a network of professional gamblers, NBA insiders, and mafia figures allegedly cheated high rollers and sports bookies out of tens of millions of dollars. These are not merely general charges. Prosecutors have receipts from surveillance footage, text messages, wiretaps, and even videos of players' homes being used to count cash. This type of evidence causes juries to sag forward in their seats and makes defense lawyers perspire. 6 main suspects are charged in the first indictment of the sports betting plot, codenamed Operation Nothing But Bet. Terry Rozier, Shane Sugar Hennon, Damon Jones, Dairo Nerolaster, and Marvis Fairley were all spooked by Eric. They are charged with conspiring to target at least 7 NBA games involving 5 teams: the Charlotte Hornets, Orlando Magic, Portland Trail Blazers, Los Angeles Lakers, and Toronto Raptors, with wire fraud and money laundering between December 2022 and March 2024. The main accusation is that these individuals obtained confidential information by using their long-standing friendships with coaches and players. Consider unpublished injury reports, recovery schedules, or performance goals prior to a game, and then sell or distribute such information for flat fees or profit sharing. Bettors use straw bears to evade detection and make fraudulent claims of compliance with laws against insider betting when placing bets through retail locations and online sites like DraftKings and FanDuel. Prosecutors claim that in 3 cases, participants did more than just leak information. In order to hit underprop bets without completely ruining games and maintaining plausible deniability, they actually changed their performances by pretending to be injured or leaving early. Consider the Hornets versus Pelicans matchup on March 23, 2023. According to reports, Rozier told Lure that he would leave after 9 minutes due to a shoulder issue that team management were unaware of. Rozier played precisely 9 minutes and 34 seconds, scoring 2 points before hobbling off, while Laster wagered more over $200,000. Laster allegedly counted cash on tape like they were in a heist movie after collecting the prizes and meeting Rozier at his house in Charlotte to divide the proceeds. Then there's the Lakers versus Bucks game on February 9, 2023. Jones correctly texted that player 3, who was ostensibly LeBron James, a well-known NBA player, would miss the game because of a lower body ailment. Jones was paid a meager $2,500, and a co-defendant wagered $100,000 on the Lakers losing. When the Lakers won, the wager failed and a demand for reimbursement was made, but the plan was already underway. Jones said on November 15, 2023, that player 4, Anthony Davis, a star player for the Lakers, will be out due to an injury, opening up further betting opportunities. Additionally, co-conspirator 8, who fits Bilup's description, gave information about the Trailblazers resting important players for tanking on March 24, 2023, which resulted in a 28-point loss to the Bulls and winning under bets. Prosecutors also connected this plot to Jonty Porter's 2024 scandal, in which Porter tampered with props during games against the Kings and Clippers on March 20th and 26th, 2024, in order to keep Porter involved because of gambling debts. Porter's co-conspirators, including Hunan and colleagues, reportedly provided information with these defendants through threats. Cash splits, wire transfers, and applications were used to launder the estimated $10 million in unlawful income. Unbeknownst to the victims, sports books were tricked with wagers that looked authentic. Due to prop bets' ease of manipulation, U.S. Attorney Joseph Nella Jr. referred to it as one of the most egregious sports corruption schemes since betting became legal. FBI Director Kash Patel emphasized that the FBI had more subpoena authority than the NBA, which allowed for this crackdown. According to the indictment, there was a network that took advantage of the NBA's gambling contracts with FanDuel and DraftKings, coercion through threats, and coordination using encrypted applications. Alliances that bring in millions of dollars for the league, but lead to disputes because NBA players are not allowed to wager on games. Even more outrageous is the second indictment, Operation Royal Flush, which involves the poker ring. With the support of 4 New York Mafia families, Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Luke, it accuses 31 defendants, including Billups Jones and overlaps like Hennon, with conspiring to commit wire fraud, money laundering, operating an illicit gaming company, and Hobbs Act robbery extortion. The alleged plan took place in high-end locations such as the Hamptons, Las Vegas, Miami, and Manhattan's Lexington Avenue and Washington Place between 2019 and 2024. Although one John Doe lost $1.8 million in the June-July 2023 Midtown Manhattan games, victims were duped of at least $715 million. NBA players served as face cards, and the mafia handled security and law enforcement. High rollers, such as executives and other celebrities, are drawn to celebrities. The rigging technique is scary and complex. Cheating teams read decks, forecast hands, and transmit information to off-site operators via interstate cables using modified card shufflers equipped with concealed wireless technology. They used computerized poker chip trays to scan table cards in real time, X-ray tables, and mark decks, and barcodes that could only be seen with special contact lenses or eyeglasses. With the use of these techniques, dealers and players can conspire to guarantee house wins while victims, known as fish, suffer systematic losses. Prosecutors claim that Billups was enlisted as a face card for events such as a Las Vegas session in April 2019, where more than $50,000 was stolen, and he was paid $50,000 via wire transfer. Victims were drawn to his Hall of Fame status. He was pliable because of his past gambling problems. In a similar vein, Jones participated in several rig sessions and used his connections to LeBron James to get attention. The role of the mafia was complex. They used pre-existing illegal networks to finance and run the games, threatening violence and collecting debt to make sure losses were covered.